To quote historian of the Crusades, Edward Peters, "In Europe itself, the news of the Crusade spread swiftly, and memories of it lasted long. To many people in the 12th century and later, it appeared to be a bridge between the heroic era of Charlemagne and their own world. The Crusades' triumphs were characterized and mischaracterized in chronicles and poems. Perhaps its deepest legacy was the sense that God had intervened unmistakably and decisively in human history once again, in favor of a sinful but chosen people. Its immediate achievements proved impossible to sustain, but its memory could be, and was. The First Crusade and its consequences touched the lives and thoughts of more people at more levels of society in more ways than any earlier event in European history." The First Crusade, initiated in 1096 and culminating in the capture of Jerusalem in 1099, was an event of monumental significance, influencing European and Middle Eastern history in profound ways. It is often recounted through the writings of those who witnessed the events, creating a narrative that seems predestined and omitting many complexities. Today, we will delve deeper into the events and figures that sparked the First Crusade, shedding light on the often overlooked details. The First Crusade's triumphal entry into Jerusalem on July 15, 1099, was marked by a bloody massacre. Crusaders slaughtered a large portion of the city's population, with many seeking refuge on the roof of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The survivors were enslaved, and the streets of Jerusalem ran red with blood. Many Crusaders, having fulfilled their vow to free the holy city, returned home, leaving behind a small garrison to maintain control. By the end of 1099, only a few hundred people, all foreigners, remained in Jerusalem. Before the First Crusade, the Eastern Roman Empire, or Byzantium as it is commonly known, faced immense challenges. Alexios Komnenos usurped the throne of a bankrupt and beleaguered empire in 1081. His early reign was marked by battles against the Normans and Pechenegs, efforts to restore imperial authority, and delicate balancing between powerful noble families, clergy, and commoners. The Sultanate of Rum, once a Byzantine vassal, had become an independent power. In 1091, Alexios launched ambitious social and monetary reforms, and crowned his son John as his heir. However, before he could embark on a campaign to reconquer Anatolia, news of a Serbian uprising reached Constantinople. Alexios set out towards Dyrrhachium to quell the rebellion. During the journey, a conspiracy to assassinate him, involving former Empress Maria and his brother Adrianos, was uncovered. This revelation highlighted the internal instability of the empire, prompting Alexios to reconsider his plans for a large-scale campaign against the Seljuks. Witnessing the military prowess of the Norman knights, Alexios appealed to the Western courts, hoping to inspire an armed pilgrimage that would help reconquer Roman lands for more than just gold. Stories spread about Turkish atrocities against Christian pilgrims and the desecration of holy sites. The narrative, though exaggerated, depicted a dire situation that resonated deeply with Christian Europe. Pope Urban II, elected in 1088 and a staunch supporter of Gregorian reforms, played a pivotal role in mobilizing Western Christendom. Initially isolated from Rome due to conflicts with Holy Roman Emperor Henry IV, Urban toured Norman Italy, gathering support and extending friendly correspondence with Alexios. In March 1095, the Council of Piacenza saw Byzantine ambassadors join in, and Urban inspired soldiers to enter Alexios' service, promising remission of sins. Urban's grand tour of France, beginning in July 1095, aimed to secure support from key figures like Bishop Adhemar and Count Raymond of Toulouse. His journey culminated at the Council of Clermont in November 1095, where he delivered a stirring speech calling for a crusade. Although accounts of the speech vary, the message was clear: unite Christendom, end internal conflicts, and liberate the Holy Sepulchre from Muslim control. Also, the term crusade did not exist at the time, but the Pope's impassioned plea resonated throughout the Catholic West, particularly among the feudal nobility who responded with fervent enthusiasm. Contrary to popular belief, the reception to Urban's call was mixed. Nevertheless, Bishop Adhemar's commitment to the crusade inspired many. Urban's speech emphasized repentance, the cessation of internal wars, and the defense of Christian lands. The promise of remission of sins for those who died on the journey further galvanized support. The call to arms led to an unprecedented mobilization. Many nobles, driven by a mix of piety, adventure, and economic opportunity, sold their possessions to fund their journey. Urban meticulously planned the Crusade's logistics, setting the departure date for August 15, 1096, to coincide with the harvest, ensuring supplies for the Crusaders. Urban's extensive tour across France, avoiding hostile Norman and French royal territories, generated immense enthusiasm. He addressed massive crowds in cities like Le Puy, Avignon, Lyon, Poitiers, Bordeaux, Toulouse, and Carcassonne, His letters to lords and clergymen reveal a growing euphoria and urgency, as the general population embraced the idea of the crusade. The response to the Pope's call was overwhelming. Armies from various regions of Europe began to assemble under different leaders, ensuring no single region was overburdened. This decentralized approach aimed to prevent resource depletion and maintain order. The overall enterprise was placed under the spiritual guidance of Bishop Adhemar, ensuring a unified religious purpose. The First Crusade story often begins with the Council of Clermont, but the groundwork had been laid months earlier through Urban's tireless efforts. His letters and speeches inspired a movement that transcended traditional political and social boundaries, uniting a fragmented Christendom under a common cause. In the spring of 1096, a number of knights and their followers set out for the east. The initial wave of crusaders, known as the People's Crusade, was led by figures like Peter the Hermit and comprised mostly of untrained peasants. This movement, driven by religious fervor and desperation, faced significant hardships and was ultimately decimated before reaching the Holy Land. However, it set the stage for the main crusading armies that followed. As they journeyed through Europe, they committed numerous atrocities, particularly against local Jewish communities, reflecting the broader anti-Semitic sentiment of the period. By the time they reached Constantinople, the Crusaders were considerably weakened. Their subsequent encounter with the Turks near Nicaea resulted in a devastating massacre, underscoring the dire need for better organization and leadership. Meanwhile, prominent Western princes began raising larger, more organized armies. Hugues de Vermandois, the brother of the King of France, departed in mid-August 1096. He was followed by Godefroy de Bouillon, who was joined en route by many German lords. In September, Raymond de Saint-Gilles, the powerful Count of Provence, and Robert of Normandy embarked on their journeys. In October, Bohemond of Taranto, a Norman prince, crossed the Adriatic with his vassals. These various armies took several months to reach Constantinople. Hugues de Vermandois arrived in October 1096, followed by Godefroy de Bouillon on December 23rd. Bohemond of Taranto reached Constantinople on April 9th, 1097, with Robert of Normandy and Raymond de Saint-Gilles arriving at the end of April. The Byzantine Emperor Alexius Comnenus, who had initially requested the Pope's help to counter the Turkish advance into Anatolia, was taken aback by the sheer size of the assembled forces, perhaps as many as 100,000 men. Negotiations over the fate of the territories to be recaptured proved challenging, as the emperor sought to maintain Byzantine interests while the Crusaders pursued their own objectives. After crossing the Bosphorus, the Crusaders achieved a significant victory by capturing the city of Nicaea in June 1097. This was followed by a major triumph over the Seljuk Turks at the Battle of Dorylaeum. However, the march through Anatolia was arduous, marked by hunger, thirst, and constant skirmishes. By the time the crusading army reached the formidable fortress of Antioch, the gateway to northern Syria, in October 1097, it was severely depleted and exhausted. The siege of Antioch was one of the longest and most grueling episodes of the First Crusade. Lasting from October 1097 to June 1098, it tested the resolve and endurance of the Crusaders. Some, disheartened by the prolonged siege, abandoned the cause and returned to the west. Despite these defections, the city was eventually taken in June 1098, just in time to repel a Turkish relief army led by Kerboga, the Lord of Mosul. Following the capture of Antioch, the Crusaders paused to regroup, replenish their supplies, and plunder the surrounding towns. This interlude provided a much-needed respite before they resumed their advance towards Jerusalem. In January 1099, the Crusaders set out once more, traversing the challenging terrain of Syria and Palestine. They finally reached the walls of Jerusalem on June 7, 1099. The culmination of the First Crusade was the dramatic siege and capture of Jerusalem in 1099. The final assault on the city, marked by intense fighting and a brutal massacre, fulfilled the Crusaders' vow to liberate the Holy City. The aftermath saw the establishment of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, with Godfrey of Bouillon elected as its ruler, taking the title Defender of the Holy Sepulchre. We will cover the Siege of Jerusalem in our next video, so make sure you are subscribed and have pressed the bell button. In the aftermath of Jerusalem's capture, many Crusaders considered their mission complete and returned home, having achieved what they believed to be a divinely ordained goal. Those who remained established the Kingdom of Jerusalem and other Crusader states, setting the stage for further conflicts and the continued presence of Western powers in the Levant. The establishment of Latin rule in Jerusalem led to significant changes in the city's governance and religious landscape. The Franks built and restored numerous churches, most notably the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. They also transformed the Temple Mount, converting the Dome of the Rock into the Templum Domini, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque into the headquarters of the Knights Templar. The First Crusade's legacy extended far beyond its immediate achievements. It left an indelible mark on European and Middle Eastern history, shaping the geopolitical, cultural, and religious dynamics for centuries. The idea of crusading continued to inspire subsequent generations, leading to additional expeditions and the establishment of crusader states. Edward Peters aptly summarizes the profound impact of the First Crusade. Its immediate achievements proved impossible to sustain, but its memory could be and was. The sense of divine intervention and the notion of a holy mission resonated deeply with medieval society, influencing literature, art, and collective memory.